and welcome to Talking Hope. We're so pleased that you could be with us. And Dan and I have got a really exciting guest today. Dan, I think he's got the same name as you.
He does, actually. Yeah, we're joined by Dan Blythe, who's the Global Youth Director for Alpha, which is really, really exciting. He's going to be sharing some really interesting perspectives, I think, on youth culture and also the things that Alpha are doing to move forward. So we're looking forward for a great conversation with him.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being with us, Dan. Great to have you with us. How has the pandemic impacted young people, and how has this affected their interest in the Christian faith, Jesus, Alpha?
Yeah.
What have you seen?
Massive question. I think young people have realised that the mute button's off, that they have a voice. They're called the snowflake generation because they're flaky. But we would know when millions of snowflakes fall at the same time, cars stop, buses stop, schools stop, and there's power when millions of snowflakes fall, right? I think that's what they realised. As individuals, they don't have much power, but together, when they use their voice, they can actually bring around change. And so the protests that have taken place, the gathering together on social media, I think Gen Z is probably one of the most exciting generations ever, just because they're not waiting or talking about change, they're actually bringing around change themselves, and not just micro change, like macro change.
Wow, that's
so exciting. And how are you seeing the church respond to it? So, if church leads are listening to this, what would you say to them, to not ignore that, but to embrace? How do we go about that to kind of help young people journey through the pandemic and beyond?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, if you look through the generations, like my grandparents are called the silent generation because they were seen and not heard. This generation are not the silent generation, and they're kind of not waiting for the church to give them the mic because they're kind of not expecting the church to give them the mic. Because if you look at the way even our services are set up, you come in and you listen. You take your notepad. The preacher's there to give you some keys to life, Bible exposition. But church isn't really set up there to listen to young people. That would be some of the responses we're getting from young people. And so what we're hearing is they're just saying, can I speak to my church about anything? And churches don't often want to talk about anything and everything because they're fearful of going to that place. But I guess what we realized is if you just say, I haven't got all the answers, but you're willing to journey with the young people in exploring the answers, that builds trust and relationship, and really that's what young people are looking for, just someone who's going to sit with them and allow them to discuss.
Do you think there's some common questions that are coming up that they're talking about?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, absolutely. Gen Z want to change the world. So there's loads of stuff about climate change, anti-racism, mental health, gender equality. It seems like if anyone has been sort of pushed aside, marginalized, Gen Z want to make sure that they're, that they're getting helped, that they're getting looked after.
Wow. And how have you found this? How do you think that works? I know that's a kind of a Dan and a Dan thing. I expect you've been in conversation about this. How do you think that impacts how we reach out to that generation? As Christians, how do we look at doing evangelism and mission to a generation with those key points?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, evangelism and mission, because it's like mission, Christian young people are like all for it. Great, let's make this world a better place. But evangelism is a little bit different because, sharing your faith in this current culture, if it doesn't go down well and you get slapped with a label like homophobic, what that means is I'm cancelled. And so there's a real shame culture going on right now on social media. So if you think back in the day, if you said something or did something wrong, you'd be put in the stocks in front of your community, publicly shamed. Social media does the same. It publicly shames you and counsels you. And so young people don't want to risk getting cancelled. So what I'm hearing at the moment is that they want to change the world. They want to do a lot of mission. They want to share their faith, but not so much publicly, but more privately, one-on-one conversations with their friends. So it's not just like a bite-size, this is one thing. Let's just go a little bit deeper and have a conversation. And Jesus lived like that. He had discussion after discussion. He listened to people who agreed with him, people who didn't agree with him. And I think if we can copy that model, just enable space for conversation. And that's one thing that social media doesn't do very well.
Yeah, and I think that's so helpful for us to reflect on, understand the challenges that young people are facing in sharing their faith. And so you are part of a global study of teenagers, aren't you? A piece of research, really exciting. Tell us a bit about that and how that's helping you shape your view of where young people are, even globally, not just in the UK.
Yeah, so 1,000 young people from across the world in different regions, 1,000 in each region that we're doing, each language, are getting given a load of questions about how they see Jesus, how they see the church, how they see mission. And already what we're starting to see is that young people are really deconstructing their faith. You know, they're choosing their truth, this bit and that bit. And the thing is with deconstructing truth is because we don't often talk about it very much, we don't help them with this. They just kind of get on with it by themselves. And so already the research is showing some important stuff. But yeah, so it's a Barna study with World Vision and Biblica and Alpha. And we just want to make sure that when we're making decisions, like for this generation, it's not our feelings, it's our facts. And it's all about serving them. You know, brands will spend millions of dollars getting this sort of research so that they can sell to them. We're putting the money and the effort in just so that we can serve them and look after them.
That's amazing. And I think it's so important, and you as Alpha do this really, really well, but to think actually, how do we create resources that are really attractive to young people to come and explore faith, encounter Jesus? And so, you know, as lessons from the pandemic and where you've been and learning from this global study, what's your passion and heart, and how are you guys looking forward in terms of creating resources like that?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you want it to be attractive to this generation, it just has to be authentic. I think if it's not authentic, if it's not real, if it's not genuine, they can just see and they won't want anything to do with it. And so how do we make what we're creating really authentic? And then in terms of like the product, whether it's digital or physical, whether it looks like that, whether it looks like this, I don't think it really matters. It's just, let's just look at young people, not like broadly, but like individually. You know, so what might work in Hong Kong might not work here in London. And so look at your young people, I guess look at some of the things that they're thinking about, talking about, and then just create for them in a really authentic manner, and treat them as individuals. I think if you know the names of all your young people, you won't struggle creating for them because you just know them. It comes out of that relationship.
And that ties in with some of the stuff you're thinking about with peer-to-peer being the main space and place, Dan, isn't it, for evangelism? I know that's a big focus. What's some of that focus going to look like? Yeah,
so we're thinking about, and Dan's involved in this conversation as well, really thinking actually how do we help young people share their faith in a really relevant way, but also understanding the things that are coming up against them. I think for me at the start of the pandemic in March 2020, what struck me immediately was as schools kind of shut to everyone just about, most schools work as schools trust, and you couldn't go and do detached youth work, and maybe most youth groups' Instagram was just okay, or whatever social media platform they're on. Peer-to-peer came top of the pile. Like that was the main way to reach young people, and actually it was an acid test for how good our discipleship had been, you know, and how good our empowerment of young people had been. So yeah, we're really excited about how we can move that forward together as Hope and Alpha and a bunch of other great organisations, which we're really excited about doing something together, seeing how we can progress that. And so Dan, what are you excited about with Youth Alpha moving forward? You're the global director. You know, all this kind of learning different things. What are you excited about for the future of Youth Alpha and Alpha?
Yeah, I mean, the title sounds a little bit heavy, but I mean, to me, it's a dream job. I just get to get alongside youth pastors across the globe and just encourage them and see how they're doing. Yeah, I think it's time to give the mic. And it was you telling me the other day, you know, that young people have the confidence in Christ, but not so much the courage, you know, because of this kind of shame culture that's going on. And so how can we really empower them, you know, to have the courage, you know, to speak up when they need to speak up, to maybe step out when they need to step out. I think there's loads of opportunity, you know, more than ever. But I think, you know, when it comes down to this generation, it is just time for us to listen, you know, and that's what I love about Alpha. Alpha has a big question mark in its logo, because we're not saying we've got the answers, but we're just saying let's come and create a conversation. And if you've ever done Alpha, the one hosting the conversation isn't meant to be bringing all the answers. You have to keep deflecting it back. So it's going around the circle. And, you know, I just think, you know, let's continue to create spaces for young people to come with their questions, and even if they leave knowing that they haven't got all the answers, but they definitely got a relationship with someone who's willing to sit with them and accept them as they are with their questions, you know, because sometimes we feel shame even over the questions that we carry. I think that will be a huge change for this generation.
No, that's really, really exciting. And recently, in the past year, we've released this Mark's Gospel, which I sent you a copy of. I think you liked it.
Loved it. Loved it.
Put you on the spot. And why do you think it's really important, or, you know, do you think it's important that actually to help young people discover and access the Bible? You know, this is a generation that are being called biblically illiterate, but probably in some ways churchy illiterate, if that's a word, or ecclesiologically illiterate. Yeah. You know, why do you think it's important that we help make things like the Bible and prayer and other Christian practice accessible for young people?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I really love that because it's Mark's Gospel. And if I was going to give it to, thank you. If I was going to meet any young person or any person, any age who just encountered Jesus, I'd love to just give them Mark's Gospel, because this is just a great starting place for someone who hasn't got faith. What we realize is that throughout lockdown is that young people would say their most intimate moments was in 20 minutes of worship. Either on a Friday night or on a Sunday, the worship set, that was when they felt most intimate. That's been taken away. Yeah. And so they feel like their intimacy with Christ is gone. So going home with their Bible was scary for them. They didn't like being alone with Jesus. And because of that, kind of struggled. But things like this, just an easy way, just to spend time with Jesus, to read about him and what he said, this is perfect. So I think we need to see more of this stuff. And we need to start seeing, reaching this generation. It was like what it was like in Paul's day, when he's going into different spaces, speaking to people who've got no idea about, who Jesus is and what he's done, and listening to what's going on in the culture, but explaining Jesus plain as day to people in the culture. I think stuff like this is so important.
Dan, thank you so much for being with us. It's just been absolutely amazing.
Thank you for having
Everything you've shared and said and inspired us. And if you're a church leader and you're watching this, young people really matter. And there are great, amazing people around to help you on that journey. I know the two Dans I've got here, Dan and Dan. Yeah, there are others, they're not just called Dan. And actually, just getting help from the right people, either from Hope or Alpha. These people are here to help because we've got a generation to reach and to equip and to help on their Christian journey and faith and to introduce to Jesus. And we can do it with help.
Thanks so much, Dan. And check out all the other episodes of Talking Hope. We'd love to help you resource you in that way.